Hello friends, this is lesson number 49 in the series of British literature in English. In the previous lesson, we started our discussion on Philip Sidney and we discussed some of his important works. And in this lesson, we shall continue our discussion about his work, and that is the Countess of Pembroke, Arcadia. The Countess of Pembroke's Arcadia, which is commonly known as Sidney's Arcadia. He wrote this work to amuse his sister, and it was written around the year 1580 and published after his death in the year 1593. There are two versions of this work, as Old Arcadia and New Arcadia. And like a classical drama, this work is also divided in 5 books, and it has the elements of the romance, comedy, action, and the pastoral life. And we shall realize each of these elements when we discuss its plot. But before going into the plot, first we shall discuss some of the literary points. The first, that the pastoral elements that we see in Arcadia, these are taken from the Hellenistic model of Heliodorus. Hellenistic model of the Heliodorus means it comes from the ancient literature of Greece. From the Greek literature we have this. Hellenistic always referring to the ancient myths of the Greece. Next, William Shakespeare, he wrote King Lear, and in that work we have subplot of Gloucester, and that subplot is taken from Arcadia. Next we have a dramatist, James Shirley. He also performed or dramatized a few of the parts of Arcadia. Then we have Samuel Richardson. He wrote a famous work, Pamela, and in that we have the character, the titular character, that is Pamela, and this character is taken from Arcadia. So you will see a character by this name, Pamela, a beautiful lady. And then King Charles I, or the Charles I of England, when he was executed. Now we have the age of Elizabeth. After that, 1603, there will be the King James I of England, and after that we see Charles I. So he was executed around 1650 or so, and when he was executed, he recited a few of the lines from Arcadia. So now we come to the main plot. And first we have a list of the characters. So to help you understand this plot properly, I request you that you should note down these characters. So there is the list of the characters. First we shall recite their names and what is their role in this work, and then we shall consider the storyline. Though the list of these names is a bit long, you may forget the names, but you will understand the plot so well that you won't be able to forget that, and it is a nice plot. Some of the works that we have in English literature, this is a classic example of a romantic story that is filled with comedy and action. So let's get started. Arcadia, as the title have this name, Arcadia is the name of a place. It is a kingdom, and on this kingdom we have a king, and the name of that king or the duke is Basilius. So now write down the name of the family members of this duke. Basilius has a wife and the name is Gynecia, and the elder daughter is Pamela, and the younger daughter is Philoclea. So this is the family of this duke: Basilius, his wife Gynecia, then Pamela, and then Philoclea. Now we have two more prominent characters, and one is the oracle of Delphos, the person who makes prophecies. He is telling the future to the king. And then Philanax, and he is the friend of the king. Now we have the family of the servant to the king, and the name is Demetus. Though these are not so important characters, but go through their names. Demetrius is the servant, Miso is his wife, and Mopsa is their daughter. Mopsa, she is ugly looking daughter and she is intelligent, she is smart, and Demetrius, he is also loyal to the master. And who is the master? We have Basilius. Now we have the two families and the other important family, that is of the Duke of Thessalia. And the name of the Duke is Euarchus, and he has a son, the name is Pyrocle, and Pyrocle has a cousin, and the name of cousin is Musidrus. So we see Musidrus and his uncle is Euarchus. And apart from these names, two more names you have to remember, that Pyrocle the prince, he disguised as a woman, as an Amazon woman, and the name is as Cleophila. And then we have Musidrus, he also disguised as a man of a tribal class, the name is Dorus. Amazon or tribal class, the people who are from the pastoral life, they are not the royal people. Though we have Euarchus, Pyrocle and Musidrus, they are from the royal family, but when these two princes, Pyrocle and Musidrus, they disguise themselves as the pastoral people, the people from the countryside. And now as you see, these are 10-12 names. Don't try to mug up them, just go through them once or twice. Like there is a king, he has two daughters, and the other king, and he has two princes. So like this. So we are starting with the plot now. To begin with, we have the kingdom Arcadia, and there is the duke named Basilius, and he is ruling there with his loyal wife, the name is Gynecia, and the two beautiful daughters Pamela and Philoclea. And there is the servant Demetrius. And one day the oracle of Delphos, that prophecy maker, he tells the king that in future something will happen to ruin his life. So something devastating will be happening. So what is that? He gave some hints like his wife will cheat him. He will be cuckolded by his wife, means his wife will have an extramarital affair with someone, and then his daughter, one of the daughter will be stolen by someone, and his other daughter will also have an affair with someone else, and more importantly, his entire kingdom will be taken over by someone from the other state. So we have three prophecies. His wife will be cheating him, and his daughter will be eloping with someone through love affair, and someone will take over the control of his kingdom. So these threatening prophecies made by that oracle. Now, having heard these sort of prophecies, what he did, that he simply made a decision to quit his kingdom, and he retired himself to the countryside, where he shifted with his daughters and his loyal servant Demetrius. So the king is shifting to the countryside with his servant, and both the families, the family of the king and also of the servant, they shift to the countryside. And now who is taking hold of the kingdom? His friend Philonex. He is given the charge of the state, and he is taking the care of all the issues. And now come to the other side. We have those two princes, Pyrocle and Musidrus. They were from the neighboring state Thessalia, and they were passing through that countryside, and there they spot these two daughters, Pamela and Philoclea. Pyrocle fall in love with Philoclea, and to win this love, what he did, that he disguised himself as a female warrior, and the name is Cleophila. And his cousin, that is Musidrus, he too disguised himself as Dorus, and both they reach where the king was staying with his family. Now there, what happens, that Musidrus, when he saw Pamela, he too got attracted towards her. So now we are having the setting of the two pairs, and the first is of Pyrocle is getting interested in Philoclea, and then we have Musidrus, he is interested in Pamela. And alongside this, a few more things developed. Which are these? As we know that the Prince Pyrocle, he is now disguised as a woman named Cleophila. The Duke Basilius, he gets interested in her and he starts courting her. And one day we see that their group is attacked by a lion and a bear. Actually, they attacked their shepherds. And then Cleophila. Who is Cleophila? That is the Prince Pyrocle disguised as a woman. He kills the lion. And Musidrus. Who is Musidrus? The other prince disguised as Dorus, the man. He kills the bear. And the families are saved. Now, the wife of the king, Gynecia, she suspects that being a woman, Cleophila, she killed the lion. And actually he is a prince, he is a pyrocle, he is a man. She starts keeping a close watch on Cleophila, and then Gynecia realized that Cleophila is not a woman, that is a man. And on the other hand, we have Dorus saving Pamela, but Pamela still is not interested in Dorus. And further we have the daughter of that servant, Demetrius. He has a daughter, the name is Mopsa. She is a bit ugly looking girl and she is always with Pamela. And in between he starts courting Mopsa just to attract Pamela's attention, and later Dorus reveals his own identity as a prince, and then Pamela accepts his proposal, and then they decide that they should elope. So now one pair is settled, Pamela and the prince is Musidrus. On the other hand, we have Pyrocle. He is going through a love triangle. Now the things are becoming even more serious. Earlier, being a woman, he was courted by the king, and now when the king's wife Gynecia, she came to know that this female warrior Cleophila, she is not a woman, she is in fact a man. So the wife of the king, she also got interested in him. Meanwhile, we see that Pyrocle too declares his identity. He tells his real identity to Philoclea, and she too accepts his proposal. So now both pair are settled almost, but Pyrocle had a problem that the Duke Basilius, he was always having an eye on him. Now as the action develops, we see Musidrus, he tells Pyrocle that he is now planning to elope with Pamela. And on the other hand, Pyrocle too tells him that he too is willing to elope with Philoclea, but they cannot, as Basilius is always having a close watch on him. Now we have Gynecia. She is giving threats to Pyrocle that he should spend a night with her. The wife of the Duke, she is giving threats to Pyrocle that he should spend the night with her, otherwise she will reveal his identity to the king. She calls him in a cave. Now to avoid this situation, what Pyrocle does, that he sends Basilius there in the cave. Now Basilius is thinking that he will get Cleophila there in the cave, and on the other hand Gynecia, she thinks that she will get Pyrocle. Now it's the night time and both they enjoy the night, but they are only thinking that they have their love interest there. But actually the husband and wife, they are in the cave and they spend the whole night with each other. And now as the night gets over and in the morning, both they realize that they were with each other, husband and wife. And then Basilius accidentally takes a poison which was brought by Gynecia for Pyrocle. As the result of that poison, the king Basilius, he dies. And Philanax, the man who is in charge of the kingdom, he comes to the spot to investigate the things. So what we have, the king accidentally takes that poison and he dies, and the suspicion falls on Gynecia, his wife, and she accepted that yes, unknowingly she gave the poison to the king. So now she is arrested. And on the other hand, we see that Pamela and Mercedes both eloped and they were going to some other place, but on the way they were attacked by a mob, and later they were also arrested by the authority Philanex. And what happens about the other pair, that is of Pyrocle and Philoclea? As we know that the Duke and his wife, they were in the cave the whole night. On the other hand, we had Pyrocle and Philoclea, they were in the lodgings and they were spending the night together. And when Demetrius finds that Cleophilia is in fact a man, he is Pyrocle, then he held both of them captive. And later the authority, they took both of them to the prison. So now who are in the prison? We have Gynecia. She has already accepted that she killed the king, and both these princes, they were also in the prison. But the two daughters, they were spared and they were now in the royal house. And alongside this, one more thing was happening that we know. In the beginning we had the king, he quit the kingdom, and Philanex, he was not able to control the people and to run the administration properly, and that is why the people were revolting against the state. Seeing this as a situation, Pamela demands that she want to take the charge of the kingdom, but Philanex refused that he will not give her charge unless or until he investigate the murder of the king, and he wants to give the severe punishment to all these three people, both these prince and the queen. And one more thing is worth noticing, that till now there is no revelation of the identity of these princes, means no one knows that they are the prince. Still they are hiding their identity and posing themselves as the ordinary people, and they take further new names, like Musidres takes the name Palladius and Pyrocle takes the name as Timopres. And then comes the appearance of the king of Thessalia, that is Arcas, and he is the father of one of these princes, and he is a good friend of the king Basilius. So now he came to know that the king had died, so he was there to help Philanex to complete the trial and to give the punishment to the criminals. And one more thing we should bear in mind, that this king, he still doesn't know that where his son and nephew are. And as the trial gets completed, the punishment is given. Gynecia is given the punishment to be buried alongside the corpse of that king, and both these boys, they were given the death punishment. However, just before the execution, the king Arcas came to know that both these boys are his son and nephew. He gets upset, but still he said that he will stay committed to the judgment given earlier, so he will not interrupt in this punishment. So at this point everything was in readiness for the punishment and the execution to take place. And then there comes a dramatic development to the action. Suddenly the groans are heard from the Basilius corpse, means there is the dead body, and then the people find that there is some movement in the dead body, and then they all realize that king Basilius, he is still alive. He was only in the coma and now he is fully in his senses. The decision of the punishment was reversed. So as a comic reversal, we see that all were spared, and to provide a happy ending, the marriage of both these princes is settled with the two daughters, and that is how we see a happy ending is provided. So this is the whole story of Sidney's Arcadia. We have the king Basilius, his two daughters Pamela and Philoclea, and his wife Gynecia, and the two princes from the other state, that is Pyrocle and Musidres. So we see the king is retiring to the countryside, there he is living, and there we see the two princes, they got interested in both these two young daughters of the king, and their affair started. And then there is an incident where the king dies and the suspect falls on both these prince and also on the wife of the king, and they were given death punishment. But there was a comic reversal in the action, and as we see, the king was not dead, and as a result all were spared, and the marriage of both these princes with these two princes is settled. So as we see that this is quite a simple plot, but the names, the character names, these are a bit awkward, and that is why we see that it becomes a bit difficult to understand the whole work. But apart from these names, I think the plot is quite clear. Now there are two more points which I am adding to this video. Actually, these two are the concepts given by Aristotle about tragedy. The first is agnosis. And why I am telling you here, because here I see a perfect example of that. Agnosis means where a character or hero comes to know about something hidden. So he makes a critical discovery that has lots of importance in that plot. So who made that critical discovery? We have the king Euarchus. He came to know that both these culprits are his son and nephew, but still he stands firm with his decision. And the next concept is of peripeteia. What is peripeteia? It is a sudden change in the circumstances, especially from the bad fortunes to the good fortunes. So how we see, or where we see that sort of happening, that is in the end, where we see that as the people came to know that the king is alive, so suddenly everything gets changed. The fortune of that queen, of these two princes gets reversed, and we see a happy ending. So that is all about Philip Sidney's Arcadia. And one more thing, again I suggest you that don't try to mug up these names. Just go through the story once or twice, keeping all the character, their names before your eyes, and you should, if possible, write down their names once or twice. That's enough. That will help you remember the complete plot line. So that is all for this work. Thanks a lot for watching this lesson. Have a great day.